I remember the build up to my exam so well. It'd be a few weeks before the exam and I'd be so chilled. I'd think, I've got loads of time left. And before I know it, it was the day before the exam and I wished that I'd started sooner. So in this episode today, I'm going to talk about what you should be doing in the weeks, then the days, and then the hours before your AFM exam. So welcome along to this episode of the Andrew Mower AFM Made Easy podcast. Thanks ever so much for joining me. So this week we're going to be thinking about the exam countdown, so the build up to your exam. Now this is going to firstly focus on the weeks building up to your exam. So I'm thinking maybe somewhere between 2 and 6 weeks before your exam, what you should be doing. So let's start there. Now the key thing with this sort of revision phase, as we tend to call it, is question practice. So for AFM, that is the single best thing you can do in order to pass this exam. But there's a method to that, and there's a technique to practicing questions to get you ready for AFM. If you just do loads and loads of questions but don't really do them properly, it's not actually that effective. So doing question practice correctly is vital. So here's the way to do that. This is the way to properly practice questions. What you're going to do is get your question ready. Now, ideally, this would be in ACCA's practice platform. There are lots of questions on there, so lots of past exams, specimen exams. So it's really useful to use their software. And you're going to get it loaded up, and then you're going to look at how long you should have. So if it's a 25-mark question, you should give yourself 49 minutes. And if it's a 50-mark question, you should give yourself 1 hour and 38 minutes. Unless, of course, you are entitled to additional time in the exam, in which case you can adjust it accordingly. So you're going to set a timer. Now, ideally, that won't be on your phone because that can be quite distracting. But it might be, if you're on your laptop, maybe you have a little timer from Google or something like that. That is counting down the time. Then you're going to do the question as if it were exam day. You're going to write it properly. Now, this is really important. When you're doing your discussion parts, you're actually practicing writing out those discussion parts in full. I know loads of students who will just make a little list, maybe some bullet points, and say, yeah, I would have said that. Oh, I would have said this. But when you actually come to it, it's really hard turning a bullet point list into full sentences. So you need to do these questions as if they were on exam day. And that's very important. And I know it's so tempting just to think, I'll just do a few little pointers. But it is really important you do practice writing those out in full. So you're then going to finish the question, and you'll end it when the timer ends. And probably for the first few, you'll go, whoa, that went quickly. I need to really work on my timings. But that's fine because it's all about learning from it. Then what you can do is maybe give yourself a quick break. So that might have taken you 49 minutes, or if it's a big 50 marker, as I said, 1 hour and 38. What you might want to do then is go for a quick walk. Reward yourself. Make it appealing to learn. So I really like the idea of going for a quick walk. Maybe I'd probably get myself a cup of tea. That's my standard reward for doing something good. Go and treat myself to a nice cup of tea. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come back and you're going to work through it. Now, ideally, if you're on a course, you'll have a walkthrough question or like a video, which is what I provide for my students, like a video of me working through it from start to finish to see how you should have done it. If you haven't got that, then you can use the model answers from ACCA, or maybe if you've got an exam kit, you can look at the answers there. And you're going to try and work out where you got things right and where you got things wrong. So ideally, you'll mark your own script essentially and work through that. And just think, okay, I was close in that bit, I wasn't so close there. And don't judge yourself. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about learning from the experience. And it may well be that those learning points are that you need to go away and revise that topic again, which is fine. Again, you've learned that. So it's all about then you can go back to your notes. So at that point, go back and revise that particular topic. With just a few weeks to go until the exam, I wouldn't recommend just reading through loads and loads of notes, or even probably making like summary notes and things. You're better off doing questions and then learning which bits you need to work on that way. And by doing that, you're then really getting into the style of the exam. And the more questions you do, the better your chances of passing this exam. So that process, that structure, you're going to do a question to time, then give yourself a quick break, and then you're going to come back and you're going to work through what you should have done. Do that as many times as you can, and it's a really important lesson. And then what you do is, write down things that you need to work on. So keep doing that and keep refining your technique, and that's going to work really nicely. Now, even better if you can get some tasks marked. So again, in my courses, I provide marking for students. But if you can get some scripts marked, that is brilliant, because then you can get some feedback on areas you need to improve in and see how you're doing. Now, maybe with 2 or 3 weeks to go until your exam, you will do a mock. So very important you do at least 2 or 3 full exams to time. Now, again, when I say do a mock, I don't mean just work through a few questions in a mock and see how we do. What you're going to do is you're going to lock yourself away. You're going to tell your family, flatmates, whoever it is, you're going to tell people, right, do not disturb me. I'm going to be doing a mock this morning or this evening. And you go into full-on exam mode. You want to get used to that pressure and get that feeling of, here we go, maybe get a little bit nervous. You almost want to build up a bit in your head and be like, right, come on, I'm going to give this a really good attempt. Because again, doing a full exam is tiring and it's stressful and it's hard work. So you need to get used to that. And I want you to be really comfortable with that so that on exam day, it doesn't feel like it's a completely new experience. You want to really get that in there. Now, I say all this, and I say you need to do as many questions as you can, as many mocks as you can. But what's really important in the weeks building up to the exam is you look after yourself as well. So you need to schedule your time. If you take one thing away from this podcast, I want you to go away and really schedule in your time. Use a calendar to do that. And block in, when are you going to study? When are you going to practice questions? When are you going to do those mocks? But also schedule in, when are you going to have evenings off? When are you going to see your family? When are you going to go out with friends? When are you going to exercise? When are you going to go to the gym? So that's fine. Do that stuff. Get that in there. Get that in your schedule and allow yourself breaks. Give yourself rests, because you need to be really fresh. And also make sure you're getting enough sleep over those weeks as well. So we've been doing that for a few weeks. Now we're down to a few days. So in the final few days before your AFM exam, so I'm thinking here probably the last week, so let's go with 7 days. You want to do another mock, so try and do another mock. And what I recommend with that final mock is that you replicate exam conditions even more than the earlier mocks. By which I mean, try and do it at the same time. So if your exam's at 9 a.m, try and do that final mock at 9 a.m. Because that way you'll know what you're going to have for breakfast and you'll have the same issues that you will have on exam day. If your exam's at 12 p.m. and you've not practiced doing it at that time, you might realize, oh, hang on, I need to eat before this, because 3 hours, 15 minutes is a really, really long time. So we're going to need to make sure that you're getting that strategy correct. So make sure you are trying to replicate exam conditions as much as you can. Some people even wear the same clothes that they're going to wear on exam day. I always used to wear the same pretty awful clothes for my exams, just because I knew they were comfortable. And like you pass a few exams, and maybe it's the superstitious nature of me sometimes. I was like, oh, these are my lucky jogging bottoms that I always used to wear to exams. So it didn't look the most professional, but they worked. So make sure you are really replicating those exam conditions and doing it to time. No distractions. Make sure everything's off. Phone's in a different room, and really, really give it a good go. And then again, work through the answers. Debrief it once you've done that. In the last few days, you'll also be wanting to recap some key topics. So think about which topics get tested loads in AFM. So things like hedging. Hedging will be in your exam. So knowing the pros and cons of different hedging techniques and things will be great. All your investment appraisal type topics as well get tested a lot. And your valuations, reconstruction. So make sure you've gone over those and you're very comfortable with the key theory from that stuff. And then in your last few days, again, really important you look after yourself. So get some sleep. Don't be studying until 3 a.m. I saw something on LinkedIn the other day, people saying, oh, I study until 3 a.m. every night. It's not good for you. You need to be getting some sleep and getting some rest. Eat properly as well. Eat healthily. So really think about your diet over those last few days. I know lots of students resort to junk food just because it's quick, but that's not great for your brain. And actually, you really need to be looking after yourself. And again, still exercise. Allow yourself time to go for a walk, go for a run, go to the gym, whatever, because that's going to clear your head a bit. And try to do that without your phone as well. Try and do it so that you're actually giving your mind a little bit of a rest. And then also you need to plan exam day in those last few days. So you need to plan where you're going, how you're going to get there. You need to think what's going to be in your exam bag. So make sure you're getting that plan so it's not going to cause you stress the day before or even worse on exam day once you get there. So they're the last few days. So again, you want to be doing a full mock to time. And again, maybe practicing a few questions to time along the way. But again, at this point, you shouldn't really be going over any new theory. Hopefully you've done all that, but it's just doing those final bits of preparation. And again, just really looking after yourself in those last few days as well. And then we get to the final few hours before your exam. So we're thinking the night before the exam now and the morning of the exam. So the night before, get some rest. Finish studying early if you are studying the day before. I tend to set a bit of a curfew for my students and say, right, 7 p.m, don't study anymore after that. It's very unlikely the night before that you're going to cover something that's going to be really, really important, especially when you're tired and a bit nervous. But if you do carry on studying really late, you're definitely going to sleep badly. So again, the fresh mind element of this exam is very important. So make sure you're getting some rest the night before. Try and relax. I used to watch some TV the night before. Always used to watch Mr. Bean. If you've never seen Mr. Bean, go and find it on YouTube. Watch it the night before your exam because it is mindless comedy that really you don't have to concentrate on, and it just allows you to relax a bit the night before. Also, make sure you stop talking to people about your exam. So don't be on chat forums panicking about adjusted present values the night before the exam. At this point, again, it's all about trying to relax. So yeah, just try and switch off a little bit. Maybe speak to someone who isn't in the world of exams. I always used to talk to my granddad who was in his mid to late 90s when I was doing my exams. And he was great because he didn't care about my exams, really. He didn't really understand what I was doing, I don't think. So he'd just be telling me about what was going on in his world and everything else. And actually, it's quite nice just to get a bit of perspective that all his different ailments and aches and pains, actually, yeah, that's what he's worried about. Maybe I shouldn't be so worried about my exam. And then in the final few hours on exam day, so actually when you get there, the exam day itself in the morning, make sure you, again, think about your diet. So eat properly. Very important that your nutrition is good. Make sure you're hydrated. And really think about your breathing as well. When people are nervous, they tend to do shallow breathing. So short breaths that aren't really doing the job properly. So really try and take some deep breaths throughout that morning and it'll help you to calm down. And again, if you want to look over a few notes, you can. People are very different on exam day. I tended to do maybe a little bit of revision early in the morning, just looking over some key notes. And then I'd stop. I'd say, actually, right, I'm going to stop at this time. Again, I'm going to get a bit of food and then I'm just going to relax a bit. So maybe listen to some music, do whatever, and then go into that exam. Now, again, definitely on the way into the exam, don't talk to other candidates because they often start panicking people. So really just try and switch off and then get in the zone. So there we go. Thanks ever so much for listening to this episode. We've talked about what to do in the final few weeks, the final few days, and then the final few hours before your exam. The main thing, as you've picked up, is about practicing questions, but also I really want you to look after yourselves because lots of people forget that and they'll give you loads of advice about study, study, study. But the number one thing is you've got to be on top form on an exam day because if you're well rested, well hydrated, you've eaten well, you're going to be in a great position to tackle anything. Whereas if you're tired, you're exhausted, you've eaten badly, you're probably not going to be able to answer quite a few bits. So really look after yourselves and that will pay off on exam day. Now, don't forget to check out my YouTube videos. Got loads more advice on what to do before exams and getting that mindset right. So Andrew Mower AFM, find me on YouTube. And also make sure you follow me on LinkedIn, Andrew Mower, because I do loads of tips, especially in the build up to exams. So keep working hard. Best of luck with your studying and I'll speak to you soon.